presentation of the base placement update. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening and welcome back. What a great way to start out, our new school year. As we prepare getting ready to go into the new school year to celebrate the things that we've done really well over the past year. And that's really what this AP Score Update is all about. So as we go ahead and begin, I just want to give a quick overview of what we have. What do we have? We have 80 different teachers teaching 25 different AP courses. That's nearly every single one of them that's offered through AP College Board. We had 1,900 plus students enrolled in these courses this past year. Out of our nearly 7,000 students, that's quite a large number of students. Nearly 30% of our Lincoln students took at least one AP class. So what does that mean? Well, we gave 3,800 different exams this past year, which equates to about, and of those exams, what it means is about 72% of those students that were enrolled in an AP class actually took the AP exam. So really, how did they do? That's the real question that we have to look at. And so before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about our AP teachers. Our AP teachers do an outstanding job in preparing our students for these AP exams. They offer both before and after school prep sessions. They create their own type of practice tests. They pretty much do whatever it takes to help our students that want to succeed, and they give them an opportunity to succeed on these AP tests. Our students, they do an excellent job in preparing themselves. They do it on their own through different resources that they obtain. They work with their teachers, and they create their own online practice tests that are available out there. So here we go. What we can see over the past number of years is that we continue to grow in the number of students that are taking AP tests, and we continue to grow in the number of students that are succeeding on the AP exams. As you can see, from 2016 to 2018, the number of students that earned a 3 or above on the AP test grew from 2,200 to nearly 2,700 students. That's quite a drastic jump. If you look at that number over on the right-hand side, it's about $4.3 million. And that's just from this past year. What an awesome feat for our students. Looking a little closer, and this is this chart represents AP scholars. And what AP scholars are, and there's different categories. But really what it talks about how truly awesome our students are performing on these tests. You look at AP Scholar. AP Scholar is recognized if they pass 3 or more tests throughout their high school career. An AP Scholar with honors passed 4 or more with a 3.25 average. AP Scholar with distinction, and this one I kind of want to highlight a little bit. If you look at the growth from 2016 to 2018, they grew by almost 100 students that earned that recognition. It's truly an awesome feat. Overall, on the far right-hand side, what you can really see is that the total number of AP scholars from 16 to 18 grew from 476 to almost 700 students. What an awesome feat. Our students truly do well on these AP tests. So moving further, I want to kind of talk a little bit about our national AP scholars. This is really one of those tough categories to fit into. These are the students that earned a 4 or a 5 on 8 or more different AP exams. This year, we had 39 students accomplish this task. Now, you may look to that list, you may recognize a name or two. I think one of our past presidents that came to present to us is on that list. But really, these students are truly some of our academic best. Doing an awesome job, but that really didn't show up too well on that board, did it? All right. We'll skip on the next one here. The next category I want to talk about is one that is kind of rare for us. It's a very significant recognition. It's that of the AP International Diploma. Last year was the first year that we had 2 students that earned that recognition. This year we only have 1, Mr. Liam Hall. But what that is the student gets a 3 or higher on 5 exams in 3 or more different subject areas. So you think about that, they're taking it in calculus and math, in English and social science, in a world language. So Liam here took 12 exams in 5 of the different content areas that are out. And I can tell you this, after looking at his results, not only did he score a 3 or higher, he scored a 4 or 5 on every single one of those exams. Mostly 5s. I think it was only 1 4 overall. One of the other stats that's out there. There's one that I was really kind of excited about this year. As we look at it, it's called AP Excellence. And what AP Excellence is, it's earning a 3 or better on at least one AP exam. And as we look at the chart that's up there, what this depicts is, if we look at our junior class, for example, in 2018, that 29.8% means that 29.8% of the students enrolled here at Lincoln Way earned a 3 or better on at least one AP exam. So if we take that throughout all 4 years here at Lincoln Way, and our graduating class of 2018, 40% of our graduating class earned a 3 or better on at least one AP exam. That means that they earned college credit here at Lincoln Way. Truly an awesome feat. And if you think about what that 40% represents, that's 700 of the approximately 1,700 students here at Lincoln Way earn college credit here at Lincoln Way. The other way that our students earn a little bit of college credit is through our dual credit courses. We offer, this past year we had college writing and personal finance, and you can see 763 students completed the dual credit courses that we hold in conjunction with JJC, and through that they've earned approximately another $1.2 million. So you put those two together. You take our AP success, you take our dual credit success, put those two together, and our students this past year earned about $5.5 million in college credit, in college tuition. So it's really exciting times as we get ready to roll into our next school year. Our teachers that are teaching AP are chomping at the bit, ready to look at the data and look at the results from last year, see how they can improve and help our students even more as we continue on into the 18-19 school year.
Do we know how many freshmen are taking the new course where they can take the AP test this year? That's exciting too.
There's quite a few. I don't have the exact number on me, but I can definitely get that to you.
No,
it is the replacement of our Western Civ Honors class, so the numbers pretty much stayed the same. So we're looking forward to having some great opportunities for our freshmen.
At least 3 sections in each building.
Yes.
Yeah. So close to 100 students.
Yeah, great experience.
Yep.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
He just keeps going.
All right, great. So today I want to update you a little bit on a document that was presented to the Board of Education back at the beginning of the 16-17 school year, and that's our technology plan that Cheryl Kay and I were able to put together and present to you. But what I really want to mention before we really get too deep into this is how much Cheryl Kay has put into this technology plan and the efforts that she's done. Is truly remarkable. She is truly very instrumental in making sure that this technology plan has come to fruition and things that we put on here have really come through. So as we take a look at it, I'm not going to go over all of it because that would take us a really long time, and I don't think we want to spend that much time, but you have it in your backup material. What I'd like to highlight is just kind of a couple things from each year. In 2015, 2016, the main highlight was Skyward. It was our first year. We were really implementing both the financial and the student side of Skyward. And it was a large undertaking for switching both of the information systems in a single year. It was very successful, and it's much more user-friendly than our previous student financial information system. This also began the year of the replacing of our aging equipment. Prior to that, we really hadn't had much opportunity to spend a lot of money on technology, and this year was the year that we were doing everything we could to update laptops, refurbish our own laptops, do it all on our own, bring it all in-house, do as much as we can so we can get the proper devices in the hands of our students and our teachers. So that began the process, and we were able to get a couple laptops for our teachers by the end of the year that we were able to put into production. In 2016, 2017, there was tons of training in the world of Skyward, both on the student side and the financial side. That just continues on for year to year. We looked at the wireless infrastructure throughout the district, and we increased our access points in the buildings and made sure that every single classroom in every area that students were going to be learning had an access point that our students could get access to. So that in a classroom, at that point in time, we made sure that we can handle up to 90 devices in every single classroom. So we really worked hard to get that taken care of during the 16-17 school year. The other thing that we started towards the end of that year was the migration into Office 365. And if you're familiar with Office 365, which I hope at this point you are, what it is, it's a cloud environment, very similar to the Google environment, but Microsoft. We went with Microsoft because that's what our platform is. That's what we have here at Lincoln Way. That's what our students are used to. It's what our teachers are used to. It's what they were very comfortable with. So we started migrating everything over to Office 365, which created emails for our students. It created the opportunity for our students to have free downloads of the Microsoft Suite. It just really created a nice opportunity for us to go into the cloud environment. During this past year, we had a nice opportunity to be able to provide all of our teachers with brand new laptops. Again, those laptops were aging, and they were anywhere from new to 9 years old. Up until this year, now our teachers this past year, they all had new laptops. Also, throughout this past year, we began a pilot of one-to-one. At the beginning of the 17-18 school year, we started with 10 teachers who, I'd like to say volunteered, but we had to kind of coerce them to join in on this initiative of a one-to-one pilot. So we started with 10. We had 10 teachers that were really gotten interested and were kind of like, one-to-one, I don't know where we're going to go, how do I do it? So we did a lot of training with them, and we were able to work with them to get comfortable so that by the time the first semester was over, that number jumped from 10 to 24 classroom sets. This past year, we ended up operating 24 different teachers with 32 laptops in their classrooms, which equates to about 750 laptops that we introduced into the learning environment this past year. Overall, those teachers have really done an awesome job in creating a one-to-one environment and using the technology with a purpose. That's the main thing that we pushed throughout this whole initiative of trying to figure out what is one-to-one, why does the school district want to go one-to-one. We kept talking to our teachers and saying, listen, we're going to provide you with these devices. If you don't use them today, that's fine. We want you to make sure that you're going to be using the devices with a purpose. Too many times we've seen school districts that hand over an entire class or 2 classes of students with laptops, and the teachers don't know what to do with them. And we watch them and they sit. And the school districts that we've talked to, we share with what we've been doing, like, man, I really wish we would have done something similar to what you did. And our teachers appreciate it. They appreciate the slow approach that we're going with regards to figuring out if this is the right thing for Lincoln. So that brings us up to this year, the 18-19 school year. This year, at the end of last year, we actually sent out a survey to see who would want to participate in the one-to-one pilot. We had over 100 teachers fill out the survey that are wanting to participate and be part of this pilot. Now, again, remember what I said. In just less than a year's time, I was pulling people into participating. I had to beg and borrow and steal and get them and say, you're going to be awesome at this. And now I have to turn people away. I have to turn teachers away that are super excited about it. They've got a plan. And a lot of things that have happened that are allowing us to really go forward with this is a lot of our curriculum is already digital. We've created our math curriculum. It's all digital. Our reading curriculum is digital. Our biology curriculum that we're going into has a digital component to it. Our world history program is going to have a digital component to it as well. And obviously our English classes, they're on computers constantly. They're trying always to get into the computer labs and utilize the laptops. So we're getting really, really close, and our teachers are really excited about the possibility of moving in that direction in the future. So again, this year what we have is we have 51 carts of 32 laptops. It's about 1,600 laptops that we're going to have introduced into our learning environment during the 18-19 school year. One of the other things that's on this one is upgrading of classroom projectors. We're going to continue to do that as projectors kind of fade out and the bulbs die. If they're at a point now where the bulbs are almost more expensive than replacing the projectors themselves, and we want them to make sure that they have the most up-to-date and current technology that works well with our laptops and our laptop environment. Over the next couple of weeks, Cheryl and I are going to sit down together again, update the plan. We look at this on a regular basis. Things that we keep on our radar is the future of one-to-one at Lincoln Way, the replacement of our aging fiber infrastructure, and the updating of our wireless network for the potential increased traffic that will be created if we do eventually go one-to-one. So we talk about it. Cheryl and I talk about this almost on a daily basis, figuring out what's next, where are we going, what's happening. What do we need to do now? One of the other things that we've talked about over the past couple of years is our strategic plan, right? And we talked about the strategic plan, and there was a technology component of that strategic plan. And so what I did here is I kind of updated, put a couple notes next to what we put together with that plan. So we created a technology plan that identified fiscal needs and has its ultimate vision for our students for college life and career readiness. Those are things that we're doing by implementing the one-to-one environment, by implementing the Office 365 product. We really are trying to help our students prepare for life after Lincoln Way. It talks about creating a life cycle. Our life cycle is very dependent upon what direction we as a district and you as a board decide for us to go, whether we go one-to-one or if we continue on the same path that we're at with individual classroom cards throughout the district. So that'll have a huge impact on the life cycle of our equipment. As we look further down, develop and explore and maintain an infrastructure to support the needs. We talk about our infrastructure, again, Cheryl Kay and I talk about it constantly. We monitor it almost every day. We make sure that the bandwidth is appropriate for a school district our size with the number of users that are on our network. We talk about our disaster recovery. What we are very happy with right now is that most of our applications are cloud-based, are web-based. So they're housed outside of the walls of Lincoln Way. What we do have here that's housed at Lincoln Way, we do have recovery for at one of the other campuses. So if something were to happen here at Lincoln Way Central, we'd be able to go and apply all the backups that we have located at one of our other buildings. So disaster recovery, we've got everything prepared. It's just a matter of us getting the equipment and making sure the equipment is ready to roll. So again, technology is ever changing, which is why Cheryl Kay and I and our team, we talk about it almost on a daily basis. We update the plan as often as we can. We look to see how we can implement things and help things out as we continue moving forward. Any questions?
I do think this is an important area, and as we've kind of, this was put together at 2016, a little different environment, things have improved a little. I think we should spend some more time this year on deciding, what, if we're going to go with the new one, and what benefits and how we can roll this out some more. Because I know it sounds great, 50 teachers, but there's 400 teachers.
Yes,
so.
that's on the agenda for this year, is to develop different focus groups amongst our faculty and staff. We've done a number of comparisons with other districts. We will be ready to make a recommendation to the board and have those discussions throughout the school year.
Yeah, because if we keep buying laptop cards as opposed to doing a lease with a company where they will replace them and then their kids actually can take them home, I think we're just putting money into things that are going to be outdated, where if you do the lease, those companies give you new ones every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years, depending upon the terms of the lease. So.
And as we know, one of our biggest deterrents for our technology over the last several years have been our financial situation. Yeah. So now as we continue to stabilize, that is the discussion for this year, and to bring back some options to the board.
Do we have a time frame for when that will occur?
Dr. Murphy?
So, that's definitely something that we talked about. We worked with the teachers that are piloting our one-to-one. We meet with them quarterly, if not more, to talk about how things are going and what they would like to see as we continue to build this out. We can definitely update you. I'd say, end of this first semester, beginning of the second semester, there could be an update as far as where we're at and the investigation that we've done up to that point.
The discussions will be freshmen only, freshmen, sophomores, how the actual rollout, what additional support staff will cost. So those are all the variables that we're taking into account at this time. But I do think by the close of the first semester, we will have this back in front of you for consideration as we move into the second.
And like you said,
you have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just think you have to take into account we now have this budget calendar of how we're going to plan going forward.
Correct.
You have to make sure that this comes in advance of those discussions.
And how to allocate that cost in terms of a number of districts. Essentially the student pays for the lease over the first 3 years, and so there are many options that we'll bring back.
No, they don't go there.
Pay for a portion of it. My district, they do.
Neighboring district.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Dr. Murphy? If not, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Okay, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening consists of approval of minutes from the June 21st, 2018 meeting, approval of the closed meeting minutes from the June 21st, 2018 meeting, approval of payroll for July 5th, 2018, July 20th, 2018, approval of 2018-2019 hazardous busing, recertification, and out-of-state travel. Does anybody wish to have any of these items pulled and discussed separately?
Yes.
Which one?
The hazardous busing recertification.
Poll number 4 at the request of member Lucetti. Any other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept items 1, 2, 3, and 5 on the consent agenda. So, motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
I'm sorry. The vote is open. The vote's unanimous. The motion passes.
Item number 4 was pulled from the consent agenda, so right now I would entertain a motion to approve the busing recertification as presented in your package. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Chris, how'd you say your question? Richard?
My question is, what is this telling me?
Brad, go ahead.
So annually, the school district must present and approved by the board any areas that are considered hazardous based on the IDOT calculations, which would be, there's quite a bit, speed of traffic, railroads, a whole other things. This list has
No
not-
sidewalks.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, which would impede walkers walking that are a mile and a half or less. Okay, this is the same list we've had last year, the year before. These hazards have not changed. There's no additional way for students to walk to school in these areas, and so we do transport them. If the board does not approve the hazardous areas, then we don't get state aid for those students we transport. So this is complying with the law. If the board agrees and certifies these areas upon Mike's recommendation based on the IDOT calculations, then the state will count that students and it will go towards our state aid.
Anything else? Any other discussion or questions regarding? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. Next are our action items. First one is presentation of invoices for June 2018.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $3,974,202.26 dated August 2nd, 2018.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Just on the transportation reimbursements to the districts, 2 questions. Were those in the prior fiscal year, the 109,000 to Summit Hill and 158,000 plus to Frankfurt?
Yes, they were.
And did we have to reimburse anyone else, New Lenox or?
We had 2, right, so we had 2 reimbursements and 2 were people owed us. So we got the bills out to get it squared up, just how fast they could process or us processing, so.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because this bill list went over fiscal years, and those are large amounts. I want to make sure that they weren't, when we go over the budget and everything, I want to make sure that they were in the prior, they're already accounted for in fiscal year 18.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? We have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next is approval of the treasurer's report for June 2018. I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented in your package. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Brad.
Yes, so for June 30th ending, we ended the year very strong on revenue flows. We had just over 34 million of revenue while expending 8.6 million in expense. Our actual cash was 29 million, just over that, including still outstanding 9 million of tax anticipation warrants, which we have a pay down schedule that we pay down on. At the end, this is resulting in, if you remember these reports, normally this number is said negative, but resulting in a positive fund balance of 20.3 million as we come into the end of the year. This would include our accounting for our warrants and our loans. As far as the actual financials, we ended the year very strong. We ended the year with a $8 million operating surplus, or a all funds $7.6 million surplus. Most of this is to do with the additional state aid and strong income tax collection. As far as state aid, the new evidence-based funding model is more advantageous for the district. We fell into the second tier of funding. That's been good. Plus, the state made good on some payments that they owed us from prior years. So all those total, we got 2.7 million more in revenue than was previously budgeted. As far as tax receipts, that's on operating. This is all on the operating side, excluding debt and capital. On the tax collection, because of the change in federal law, people paid their taxes sooner, so we collected a larger June payment. So we had 927,000 of additional revenue from local taxes. All total, we had a budget variance of 4.58 million positive variance. As far as expenditures goes, we did a great job there. We actually under-expensed our operating budget by 742,000. Part of that was in salaries, and then just sprinkled benefits and through other areas. So all total, $5.3 million positive budget variance, meaning we beat the butter ahead of the budget all across. All of that being said, doesn't have to remind, we did begin the fiscal year with a negative $256,000 operating fund balance deficit. So this 8 million puts us in the right direction. We should end the year at a positive operating fund balance of 7.8 million, which is moving us in the right direction. With that, I'd answer any questions.
The only one didn't touch on was the 644,000 in additional local revenue. What is that?
It's made up of several different things. Food service, well, let's see, let me go to my thing. So if you break it down, so we had 93,000 of additional investment income. We had 33,000 of additional fees from students. I had mentioned 45,000 from food service. Of course, we had that boiler reimbursement. That's other local. And then we did have elementary payments that we had to make back because we'd actually collected more. So those had to go back out. But that all nets out to the 644,000. So.
And the 1.2 million that's a timing for cash basis, that's already, is that reflected in the budget we're going to be looking at coming up here?
Yes, it is. So the number Mr. Rossetti is referring to, we're talking about all funds now. When I was talking operating, I said 900,000. If we flip to the first page, all funds, we collected $1.2 million ahead of where we normally would be collecting. So what we have to do when we're preparing the budget is we look at collecting the remaining 2017 or 2018 taxes, and then we'll look at collecting the first of the next. So and we did account for that.
The new state aid formula that gave us a bump this year, how are we probably discussing the budget, but will that stay flat or using the current formula across the board going forward?
We're using the current formula going forward. We're assuming it to be flat. They've still yet to finish calculating out and giving us our final numbers, but you'll notice when I talk about the budget, it's actually 11% less than what we collected this year because they rolled in, now it covers 5 old categories, and they owed us money on on 4 of the 5, I'm sorry, 4 of the 5 categories they owed us money, which they've made up, and so that's why we're actually be 11% lower, but it's flat from a evidence-based funding perspective.
I think it's important to note, because we're always looking for what the progress is, and final scores will be calculated by the ISBE, I think in the spring, but this should move us, because our fund balance to revenue ratio is one of the 5 ratios on that financial profile summary, and that going positive should move us off from financial watch to financial early warning, so we should be moving off the financial watch list.
And the amount of short-term debt outstanding, we made it under one more category up on that one too, so that'll help out. Cash on hand, we're still, that's, but we're making progress.
Thank you, Brad.
Brad, from where we were 3 years ago, thank you and your team, and Kelly, Dr. Tingley. It's definitely a positive and refreshing. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the student activities report for June 2018. Entertain a motion to accept the student activities report as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
The vote is open. The motion is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next, there are personnel reports. Employment. Rob.
Good evening. Under employment, we have Eric Lantero, special services, Jonathan Pajak, speech pathologist, Emily Rush, reading teacher, Morgan Sloma, permanent substitute, Jennifer Klee, nurse, Ivana Dignan, bus driver, Denise Hauber, paraprofessional, Daryl Thomas, bus driver, Kelly Boss, food service, Ben Zabricki, paraprofessional, and Mary Utonis, paraprofessional. I support to approve the employment report as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve the employment report as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Rob?
Under retirements, Janet Paganazzi has requested to retire into the IMF retirement system. I support to approve this retirement as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve the retirement report as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote, please.
The vote is open. I'm sorry. Mr. Janik? Okay. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next one.
Resignations. Under resignations, Jennifer Zarek, school nurse. Kayla Mantag, paraprofessional. Cassandra Bowl, paraprofessional. Mike Babjack, maintenance. Jacob Bernard, paraprofessional. Ashley Sturba, family and consumer science teacher. And Amy Knight, secretary. Ask the board to approve these resignations as presented. Oops, sorry, hold off. Got one more to go for that one. My mistake. Under leaves, Linda Agnats has requested to take a sabbatical for the 2018-2019 school year. I ask the board to approve these personnel recommendations as presented.
Entertain a motion to accept the resignations and leaves as presented.
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, vote please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you, Rob. Next is the District 843 fiscal year 2019 budget. I'd entertain a motion to approve the tentative budget as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding this budget?
I mean, this is our tentative budget.
Right, that's what. So we're just.
So this goes out to all the member districts. And if all approved in August, then that budget would be approved, I believe, the first meeting in September, correct? So this is their tentative budget. If all the other adjoining districts approved, then it's approved in September. And
Just the districts have to approve it, it doesn't have to be posted.
no,
This is-
go ahead, Brian.
Because they don't, levy taxes or we have to have CHAWS, they're funded by the member districts, the 5 member districts. So each 5 will vote on it, and collectively, if it's approved, then we, as the governing board, will vote on it at our first meeting in September. Overall, the money that's being expended at $639,000 is because, again, it's not funded by levies and TAWS. It's funded by the members, so that's a refund that's going to go back proportionally to what the member districts put in. Overall, they went out for bid. It's $50,000 savings in workers' comp, $24,000 in maintenance. They're saving by going out for bid. By not doing buses this year, purchasing them, $250,000. Overall, it's a reduction. Our percents for salaries, other than the one who's in a mandated retirement at 5%, we're between CPI 2.1 and 3%. So we're as fiscally conservative, trying to be as much as we are here. Each district is assuming that responsibility.
On the second page, as you can see, our overall increase is budgeted at less than 1%.
Any questions regarding the 843 budget? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you for your vote. Next is the Designated Assistant Superintendent of Business, CSBO, to prepare fiscal year 2019 tentative budget. Talk us a little bit through that.
So this is a formality. It's already done. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, it's required by law, so,
Yeah.
somebody else wants to prepare, that's fine.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, we would need a motion. It is a formality.
So it's like prevailing wage or any of these things that we do annually.
You know, but Joe Costa really wanted to do it. He's been lobbying me all week. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Next on the agenda, establish fiscal year 2019 budget hearing date.
And that date would be on September 20th. So we will have one more meeting between now and that date. We will present the budget this evening, but once again, it will be on the agenda as an information item for the meeting on the 30th. board can bring back any questions, concerns, and then we would actually schedule the hearing during the board meeting on the 20th day of September.
August 30th is the budget.
Workshop.
Workshop, yes. So presentation tonight, questions, concerns, then once again on August 30th, correct?
But we will need to put the budget on display by the 20th, but knowing that the board can adjust the budget even the night that they vote on it. The board has the legal authority to adjust the budget. So it's just, but it needs to be on display by August 20th to meet that 30 days.
I'll entertain a motion to establish the budget hearing date. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next is the paper bid. Entertain a motion to accept the paper bid as presented in your package. So moved. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, now discussion.
Okay, so we're doing it a little different this year. We've kind of had a co-op going for a number of years, and we go together, we all order a big bulk of paper. For us, that wasn't the right thing, I felt like, for this year. Maybe we might go back to it in years in the future, who knows? I definitely want to try this. We were experiencing paper quality problems, mainly to do with the storage, because we buy all this paper and we store it for a whole year, and then, sometimes it just isn't working as well as it needs to be in machines. So, and we also have a good amount of supply still on hand. So what we're doing is we went out to bid with an estimated amount, but it's not a guaranteed amount, it's an estimated amount. We're going to take the paper in smaller orders as needed, where we can store it inside in controlled environment. And so we also bidding out 2 different types of paper. We have our high production machines. So we have 2 high production machines in each building. Those machines are a little more finicky. And so we're bidding out what we call this, higher quality B paper, and that will be only supplied to those machines. The regular paper will just go through the machines, just the common copier. They run at a lower speed, and they can handle more, not as high grade paper, if you will. So we, the lowest bidder, after discussing deliveries and other questions, and they decided to withdraw. So then went to the second lowest, which is Veritech, which I'm recommending. Had good discussions with them. I've actually used them in a prior district. I feel comfortable. Go ahead and contracting with them and move ahead. I will say this week I got an email from the third lowest vendor, cautioning me that, have I done my due research and, with Veritech, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I have, and we're ordering, pallets at a time, so if there's any concern, we can certainly adjust. It's not like we're getting in a whole semi-load at once. So I'd recommend we move ahead with this bid as presented.
Why did Premier Paper, did they give you any indication of why they withdrew?
It really boiled down to verifying, what exact paper they're going to be providing us. I mean, it's, in our bid specs, you had to send samples of the actual paper you're going to run. And when it got down to them sending samples and confirming that, yes, this sample they're giving us today will be the same sample we'll be buying. Because when you're buying a semi-load at a time, you pretty much guarantee what they're going to quote you at that time you're going to get. When you're buying over a whole year, you want to make sure that, this is the paper we're going to get all year long. They really had trouble committing to the fact that they'd give us the exact same brand all year long. And there was a lot of back and forth. Finally, they just said, we don't want to do this. It's just not worth it for us.
And what were Midland's concerns, or what were they expressing? with
Their concern is that the A paper, they say, they just expressed some concerns that make sure I'd researched it and that it was really the quality we expected. And yes, we took samples of the paper, we ran it through our machines, our copy lady said it ran fine. So, you know, they're one of the things they're saying, well, it's not as bright white. Yeah, you know, okay, well, we looked at it, looks fine. We ran the actual paper, and so we feel comfortable that that paper will be fine.
In the inventory we currently have now, we're having problems with it running it through our machine.
Running it through the big machines. It's going through the smaller copiers fine, but the problem we're having is with the high-speed machines, those things are clicking off 100 some pages per minute. And so it's just, you know, you've got to have that paper good and, you know, can't be squeaking in it, you know, otherwise you jam up on it.
So by storing it long term, it's picking up moisture or.
Right. So we're going to, and by being able to order like this is another way for us to manage our inventory a little tighter. You know, we're not going to order an ounce of paper that we burn through everything we can. You know, we're just going to really cut it down, so.
Will this have any savings from the way we've done it in the past?
It might, you know, I mean, the actual, well, it's tough because the paper's gone up substantially. So even if we're buying a semi-load, I'd be telling you tonight, the paper's costing more today than it did a year ago. So the paper is costing more, but we are going to be anticipating buying less. You know, we've got paper still stored at North. We're going to be bringing over and use, and so we're going to use every last bit we have, especially colored. We've got a lot of different color paper. We're going to continue to push down on that until we have it all used.
Technology should continue to decrease the amount of paper that we use as well.
Do you know how many reams we have on inventory right now? It says we need 14,000 reams.
Right. We've got an inventory. I couldn't tell you what that is, but we've just finished inventory throughout the whole district, so I've got that, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second to accept the, it is presented in your package. Call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Final action item are policies, second readings.
As you can see in the policy manuals, the superintendent's notes, there are very few policies that are changed, mostly just policy updates, minor style change, footnotes and cross-references have been updated.
Entertain a motion to accept the policy, second readings as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding this? Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, next are financial presentations and discussions. Brad, first one.
Thank you. All right, tonight's presentation is a general overview of the fiscal year 2019 budget. The detailed budget books are at your desk for your review. As Dr. Tinley already mentioned, this is the first of two presentations before the scheduled adoption on September 20th. So we should have ample time for discussion and questions as we move forward. If you do have other questions, you get home, you're late at night reading this, just feel free to email, not call, but email me. Deal with it later. All righty. Yeah, text, yes. All right. Just as a general note, unless, because I want to make sure, but this entire presentation will be based on all funds and not just the operating funds as we sometimes do when we're talking about the 5-cast, unless otherwise specifically noted. So if the slide's not labeled, it is all funds. So when you look at the fiscal year 19 budgeted revenue versus 18 actuals, you'll see that we're going down 2.8 million or 2.52%. This is mainly to do with the strong tax collection, because we have to make that up now. We're going to be collecting less than 19. And then, of course, as I already mentioned, we're down 11% on our evidence-based funding. Budgeted expenditures over last year's actuals are up 4.78% or 4.9 million. For all funds, we're estimating a $47,000 surplus. Now that would have been higher if we wouldn't have had such a strong tax collection. So when we say we had a $7.6 million surplus in the prior year, part of that surplus is, if things would have came in kind of even Steven, we would have been talking about a $5.7 million surplus all funds last year, and we'd be talking about $1 million some surplus all funds this year. But the taxes came in early. At the end of the day, fund balance will all wash it out. We have an estimated operating surplus of $2.8 million, which does meet board policy 420, where we say we will annually have at least a 3% surplus to go to rebuild our fund balances. Estimated ending fund balance of $20.7 million. Operating fund balance estimated to be 10.6, or right at 12% of our expenditures. As you know, in the budget development process, we very, very closely align that with our 5-year financial forecast, that we've been working through that. Then it's adjusted for actual 2018 results. But also adjusted for our final staffing plans, principal input, and of course fully funding of our capital improvement plan. Just as a side note, in our 5-year financial forecast, we had estimated that our fiscal year 19 expenditures would be $106,553,000. Here, our budget's $106,618,000. It's only $65,000 difference from our 5-cast. Revenue. This is a quick shot, high level of our entire revenue. You can see there, local going down 1.6. I already talked about the state. And the state's going down because in the prior year we collected those extra mandatory categorical payments, which we won't be getting, so they've already paid that off. And finally, for all practical purposes, estimating federal revenue is flat. This is a graphical of that. You can see there, local revenue down just a little, state down, and federal flat. The district's total revenue for all funds fiscal year 19 here is on a graph on the board. As you can see from this graph, the district is very dependent on local property taxes, about 76% of all of our revenue. Many aspects, though, this is a very positive attribute. Additionally, 13% of our revenue comes from other local, such as student fees, rental income, and et cetera. Finally, state and federal government, just over 11% comes from those funds. Assumptions built into the budget. Well, as you know, our property taxes, we have 2 levies. Our operating levy, which is capped by BTEL, and our debt service, which is not capped. So debt service is automatically levied, unless the board abates it. As far as the budget goes, we're working on the CPI. So here's the CPIs. For 2017 levy, it was 2.1%. And then for the 2018 levy, it's 2.1%. Now that levy has not been set. We're anticipating the board would set that 18 levy in September, along with adopting the budget. We will be talking about the levy at the August meeting. As far as new growth goes within this budget, we are, for budgeting purposes, planning on $50 million of new growth. However, when we talk about the tax levy, we will actually ask for that to be a little higher, just in case there's additional new growth that we're unaware of. The district is projecting its tax base will continue to recover as it has been. We're estimating a reassessment of about 2.5% and then moving forward. You can see in 17, it was 2.32. That's current property on the books that was reassessed or the values increased. This graph here is our total equalized assessed value. I researched our tax records clear back to 2005 to discover that the district's actually high point in EAV, or equalized assessed value, occurred in 2008, where we were at 4.08 billion, yes, that's a B, billion dollars of assessed value. We are projected that our EAV will top that mark by 2019. Overall tax rates are projected to decline slightly based on the 2018 existing home values increasing at 2.5%. You will notice the red lines on the top. That's our non-capped, or our what we call debt service, and those rates are increasing and will be increasing a little bit there in 19, going up about 14 cents. Other assumptions for other local, the corporate personal property replacement tax, we're estimating at $512,000. That is down 8% from the actual. We've adjusted student fees to reflect the new athletic and activity fee. And then finally, the other current, other local pretty much just held flat. State, as you know, evidence-based funding is budgeted at the FY18 allocation, but is 11% lower since we received those back MCAP payments. And as listed on the screen there, you can see what it replaced. All other budgets pretty much held flat on the other categories. We are anticipating in the other categories that are left that we will get 4 full payments in fiscal year 19. What that means the 1 payment they didn't pay us for last year, and 3 payments they owe us in 19. Well, it's 4, but hopefully we'll get 3. This is a graphical representation of the Ed Fund, which you can imagine mirrors all the funds, as it's the district's largest fund and accounts for 63% of the district resources. Local revenue is projected to increase by about $290,000 only, and that's to do with the strong tax collection in the prior year, so we won't be receiving as much in the future. State funding is decreasing by $886,000, as we're only projecting to receive our 4 payments, 1 from the prior, 2 or 3 from this year. And basically, federal funding we're holding flat. This is O&M. O&M, we're looking at a small decrease of 2.5%, or $274,000. This is really due to 2 factors. One, rental income for the auditorium has now been recorded in the Ed Fund, since it's more to do with operations than with buildings. And then finally, we're not going to budget for the boiler replacement. This is a comparison to actual. We know we had that replacement last year. It was reimbursed by our insurance. Transportation, local revenue declining by 13%, or $1.2 million. Well, that's a large number, but the biggest part of that is due to a tax shift allocation to other funds, since this fund has had a positive fund balance for many years and has been running a surplus in the past. We are anticipating that state funding will be decreased by about 25%, or $294,000, due to constraint on state resources. Expenditures. This is a all funds overview of the expenditures. We're looking at $106.6 million in all expenditures, or a 4.78% increase, $4.9 million. Of special note is the 111% increase in capital expenditures as the district works to provide full funding for its current capital renewal plan. This is a switch, and all the numbers I've been talking about so far have been a actual, 18 actual to 19 budget, but we're going to switch here with this one here. We're going to go budget to budget. This form was requested last year, so I put this together this year, anticipation. So we have a tentative budget of 1.6 million. Last year's original budget was 101 million, an increase of 4.7 million. And it's broken down there by fund, and you can see tort fund, we're actually estimating a decrease. So there we go. Now it's also, we broke it down by major type. Of course, 42% of this increase is related to the $2 million increase in our budget for capital expenditures. Followed by that would be 1.3 million in salaries and benefit increase, and then next would be 620,000 of bond and interest. As you follow down through, you will see we have areas of reduction. We're anticipating tax anticipation warrants, even though I'll tell you later interest rates are going up. The amount we need to borrow is going down, so we're going to save about 78,000 there. Unemployment's down, legal fees down, and then there's a myriad of other minor reductions throughout the account of 290. So there you have our budget to budget comparison between the years. This is a quick graph of overview of all expenditures by object. As you can see, increasing there in salaries and benefits. Some other areas are kind of flat. This is a graphical display of the 2019 tentative budget by object, which you can see salaries and benefits, which represent 60% of our overall budget, or 73% of our operating budget, which is a large amount. Bond payments and special ed tuition represent almost 20% of our budget, with the remaining 21% of our budget going to professional services, supplies, capital, and non-capital expenditures. Built within this budget for salaries and benefits are based on the actual contracts with the unions or as per board directive for non-union staff. As far as benefits, in this budget we're holding our health insurance, dental, vision flat, and the other ones are being increased with the normal customary, with the exception of, and I'll talk about as we get into that individual fund, but IMRF, we paid down that early retirement incentive, ERI, and so that has dropped our rate, and I'll talk about that when we get to that fund. Salaries and benefits, here's just graphing it out. You can see here, based on our current staff and the aforementioned benefits for assumptions for salaries and benefits, the district expects to spend about 1.63 million overall, benefits to increase 1.63% overall, or $1 million net of retiree savings. You can see there, we were down in 17, kind of flat in 18, now we're up a little in 19. This here is total expenditures, net of transfer or without transfers. You can see here we have the last 7 years of actual expenditures with the FY 2019 budget. Expenditures are increasing due to increases in salaries and benefit, bond payments, and capital expenditures. Now looking at the education fund, which represents 61% of the district's expenditures, we're anticipating a $2.3 million increase in that fund, or 3.59%. Of this, salaries and benefits make up $1.4 million, supplies $724 million, and capital $175,000. Supplies $124,000 and capital $175,000. This is a graphical overview of the O&M, which we're projecting to go up 9%, or $760,000. The largest increases are capital at $586,000 and professional services of $513,000. However, and actually, Mr. Wilkie brought this to my attention. I got out my book to check him. We've been charging our water to supplies, which is where natural gas and electricity is charged. But actually, according to the state budget manual, it should be charged to professional services. So the big shift there is mainly to do with the reclassification of, that's right, water from supplies to professional services. I actually checked the book, I didn't believe it. Finally, transportation overall expenditures were up by 2.84%, or $270,000, due to the increase in salaries and benefits, bus fuel, and supplies. This is a summary of all funds, and you can see here with transfers, we're at $47,000 overall surplus, projected to come in at $20.6 million in ending fund balance, or 19.37% of our overall budgeted expenditures. This is our operating funds. The surplus is estimated to be $2.77 million, or 3.17% of our operating expense, according to policy 420, and brings our operating ending fund balance to $10.58 million, or 12.1%, which I will say is ahead of the goal for policy 420. So, policy 420, if you remember a year or so ago, we had, according to the plan, we were needing to be at least 3% by fiscal year 18. You can see we well beat that. We're at 9%. And so we've readjusted the schedule. We're able to shave off 2 years. Originally, we projected we would not be to the 33% fund balance until fiscal year 2028. Now, we could possibly be there by 2026. And that is the budget in a nutshell. Question?
Correct, we're not including anything about the 191st Street property, correct?
No.
Yep.
No, ma'am.
Just wanted to confirm.
The capital projects, on the summary of changes, budget to budget, sheet you put together was 1.4 million on the first page when we were going over funds, and then 2 million total on the second page. And I'm assuming that's the 600,000 from O&M that's in capital outlay. Is that in there? What is that $600,000 for?
Okay, so the overall plan is for 3.6 million. We needed to bring we spent $1.6 million in the prior year. We needed 2 million. So you're right, it's $1.4 million in Fund 60, and it's 600,000 from Fund 20, and that's because we didn't want to bring our Fund 60 all the way down. So if you look in your budget books, quickly if you want to, if you don't want to, that's fine too. But if you go to Fund 60, that's page 46, you'll see that by the end of fiscal year 19, we're estimating to still have 680,000 in that fund. And so we're only going to be taking or increasing that budget by that 1.4 million. And so, but the list of things we're doing still links back to that $3.6 million capital improvement plan that was approved in the spring. Well, discussed and decided in October, final approval in spring. We're going to do that different in the future, but that's what the funding is for.
Are we cutting down on our flexibility then by not just spending down those capital projects? Because couldn't you just move money from O&M to capital projects during the year, but you can't do it the other way?
Right, we could transfer from O&M to capital projects, but you can't go from capital projects back to O&M, not in an interfund transfer.
So you're asking,
so I'm asking,
go ahead and spend
we-
the 681, spend it down to 0, and then if we have some surplus, we could transfer it at the end of the year in June. Is that what you're asking, Chris?
Right. I'm just saying, I'm cutting down on some of the flexibility by doing it that way. I mean, granted, I was making an argument that we shouldn't spend it down, but that's done and over with. So now I don't think we should limit our flexibility by taking it out of O&M. That would just be,
Right.
unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, so one critical piece, right?
Yeah.
So board policy 420 says we will have a 3% surplus. If I take that additional money, spending it out of, oh wait, you're saying do the reverse.
Right.
I'm saying, yeah.
No, sorry, so we'll have a higher fund, a higher surplus. Go ahead and spend down the restricted fund. Well, we could, that's the adjustment that needs.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something, because I think that from a flexibility standpoint, that seems to make.
Right, yes, you're right, you're absolutely right. You'd be spending restricted funds and freeing up unrestricted funds.
So the
Because
681
O&M can be transferred to any fund within the district.
So you're saying spend down the 681.
So I'm saying, yes.
You can't move it out of there.
You can't move it out of there.
Right.
If hypothetically a capital asset was disposed of during this fiscal period, Brad, where would we have limits as to what funds we would put that in? Or would that be at board discretion?
That's, I'll just give you my off the cuff, but, obviously we want to confirm with our attorney. I would think that any major capital asset that's disposed of would first look at, well, where were the funds that were used to purchase that? If that was the general, then the board could choose to put it in a more restrictive. If it was spent out of a more restrictive, then I'd say the board couldn't choose to go to general, they would need to go to more restrictive. That'd be my feeling. You can always, I would think the